Before you go, we've got Francois Botha coming up against Tomashek. How do you think Francois will go?
Well, Frans is, what you see is what you get. He's a terrific fighter, and he surprised everybody when he sparred against Tyrell Biggs, and he really surprised the Americans. And there's also a good future for him ahead. He just got to keep his cool.
Well, here comes Tomashek to the ring, and I guess you want to leave us and go to the corner. Thanks very much, Kerry. Here comes Tomashek on his way to the ring for the scheduled 10-round heavyweight fight with Francois Botha, the Transvaal heavyweight champion. Tomashek, you may recall, been in the ring with Johnny Deploy. So this is a second South African fighter that he's going up against. And Francois Botha has been very, very relaxed here in the United States. He's done a lot of sparring, particularly with Tyrell Biggs. And he told me that he would, in fact, like to get in the ring in a professional fight with Biggs. The people who watched him work out in the gym were very impressed with the way he handled himself. And funny enough, it was a very similar story to what we had when Francois went to New York a year ago and did a lot of sparring at Gleason's gym. Tommy Gallagher was most impressed with this young man. So this is the opportunity for Francois Botha to make a little bit of a name for himself here in the Sacramento Arco Arena here in Sacramento. Very famous for boxing.
Known as the house that Tony built.
The house that Tony built. Well, Pedro, welcome back to ringside.
Okay. Very impressed with young Berkman's performance tonight. No question about that. He is a fighter to watch on the rise.
Well, I was chatting to Harry Coetzee here, and he says that more than likely they will move Berkman up to the junior welterweight division because he felt so comfortable at the weight. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. You know, I really don't subscribe to the view that you should keep on reducing.
Well, I felt that Donald Curry lost his undisputed 147-pound championship because of weight problems with Lloyd Huntington. I mean, Lloyd Huntington is not a great fighter, but I didn't think he was better than Donald Curry, but the weight woes really hurt Curry. I mean, he had struggled 8 times to make 147. The last time, obviously, he didn't struggle enough because he got knocked out.
Well, you know, Francois Botha is coming to the ring. His record, 11-0. And his last fight, got to admit it, didn't look all that good against Jinder Shabalala. In fact, a lot of people back in South Africa thought he was lucky to get the decision. And hopefully that was a lesson for Francois Botha.
Well, tonight he comes.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, our next match is scheduled for 10 rounds in the heavyweight division. Our referee for this contest is Rudy Ortega. Introducing first in the red corner, this young man is wearing the blue trunks with the red trim. He weighs in at 212 pounds. He is from Indianapolis, Indiana, with a record of 25 wins against 7 losses with 7 wins by knockout. Please welcome Tim, the Doughboy Tomashek. And now, fighting out of the blue corner, this young man is wearing the red trunks with the white and blue trim. He weighs 212 pounds also. He fights out of Pretoria, South Africa. He is undefeated with a record of 11 wins against no losses, with 3 wins by knockout. Here's Francois Botha.
According to Mr. Botha, he told me he won 28 amateur titles. Is that possible?
There's a lot of amateur titles up for grabs in South Africa in the last few years.
A lot of pro titles up for grabs.
Violate the rule.
WBO, IBF, WBA, WBC, and of course, the infamous IBC.
Indeed.
Okay.
Interesting fact about this fight, Pedro. I see both men are spot on at 212. And that doesn't happen too often in heavyweight fights.
Well, Tomashek, he calls himself the Doughboy because he comes into these fights fat and looking fat and out of shape, but he will give it his all. I mean, he can fight a little bit better than he looks.
Well, here we are, start of round 1. Heavyweight fight between Francois Botha and Tomashek.
Big size and reach advantage, height and reach advantage to Botha here.
A lively start for heavyweights.
Well, Botha's looking to impress the folks back home. He said that he realized that his last performance was not that good. A lot of people thought he lost. He says he's going to come out here smoking tonight, and he hopes to come away with a fine victory. Tomashek in the blue trunks. Of course, they're taped around the middle or something like that. Velcro holding them up there, folks. With the red trim, the red, white, and blue trunks belonging to Francois Botha of Pretoria, South Africa.
Well, Botha has slimmed down considerably in the last year. He's looking so much better.
Could he make cruiserweight conceivably?
That is the eventual aim. Perry could see who, as his business manager, would like him to come down to cruiserweight because he believes that he could perhaps even eventually fight for a world title at cruiser.
But straight up, he's a small heavyweight.
But today's standards, certainly he's a small heavyweight.
Speaking of small heavyweights and big heavyweights, the heavyweights period, Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield going to get it on in March at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, Nevada. Bert, how do you see that?
Well, that'll come as a bit of surprise to a lot of people in South Africa because the buzzword was that Pierre Coetzee, the former South African heavyweight champion, who's now ranked #2 in the division by IBF and WBA, was going to get a title shot in March or April against Holyfield. So, if Tyson Holyfield goes on, that puts the Coetzee fight on the back burner.
Well, not to knock Coates or anything like that, but I really don't believe he belongs in the same town, let alone the same ring with Evander Holyfield.
Well, a lot of people subscribe to that view, but of course it's the official rankings by the so-called sanctioning organizations that determine who fights for the title, and Coetzee is very well placed.
But isn't that a sort of an indictment on the ratings themselves?
Well, I got to be honest with you, I think the ratings are a joke anyway, but at the same time, unless you're in those ratings, you don't get a title shot.
That's right. Well, I take that back. Damiani isn't in anybody's ratings but the WBO.
Well, I'm sure by the time he gets in the ring, he'll be in the rating.
He'll be rated. Botha doing a paint job here on the doughboy, Tom Tomashek. Tomashek, one of those club fighters, folks, comes to fight. And the round number 1. Crowd getting into this one. Lively round for heavyweights, Bert.
Indeed, indeed.
Francois Botha having everything just about his own way in that round.
Well, the folks back in South Africa, you probably notice on your right hand on the screen is Ted Walker, very, very well known in South African boxing.
In fact, Ted Walker says he wants to say hello to all his friends down in South Africa. The best of wishes from Ted Walker.
And if you're wondering what all that cheering is about, it's for the young lady carrying the round cards. A good opening round for Francois Botha.
Without question, he landed quite a few more punches than Tomashek did, but he also landed the more effective blows. I wouldn't say he hurt the doughboy, but he did land some good shots. He rattled his cage a little bit. Very good opening round for Francois Botha of Pretoria. Botha letting those hands go with bad intentions now. No question about that. That last combination he threw, the intent was to knock his man out.
Good to see that he's working from behind the jab.
Most basic punch in boxing, Bert. A lot of fighters neglect that punch. And you know what? As a former fighter, it is the easiest punch to throw when you're tired. I mean, guys don't throw it. They get tired, they don't throw anything. But that is the easiest punch to throw when you're tired.
Well, Botha's making good use of it now in round 2.
You can just see the air of confidence around Botha after that first round just begin to evolve. He keeps scoring with that chopping right hand, but the doughboy is just pulling away from that right hand, just barely. Cleto Reyes gloves. These are Mexican boxing gloves, folks. Considered very fast gloves. These are the gloves preferred by Sugar Ray Leonard when he fought Marvin Hagler at first. He wanted the fast gloves. Hagler agreed to the Everlast, which are the slower gloves. Botha looking over the referee, Rudy Ortega. He is our third man in the ring tonight, a veteran of over 75 world title fights.
And he's traveled all over the world to referee those fights. He was in Accra in Ghana, he tells me. And in, I think it was Indonesia.
Yeah, he's been around. Rudy Ortega, 62 years old, just missed out on the California Commission executive officer's position. The guy was just named today. Believe it or not, they named a man that had been in charge of the dental board for 8 years in the state of California to head their boxing commission. Only in California, folks.
Right. Get back.
Meanwhile, Francois Botha is piling up the points, boxing from behind that left jab.
The Doughboy is very entertaining. I mean, what he lacks in talent, he makes up for in desire and ability. Desire. His ability isn't that great. It's not a cold evening here tonight, yet none of the fighters so far have really seemed to have been warmed up. I mean, Lovato and Jesus Carey in their first fight, the junior welterweight fight that we did not see on television, were sweating after 6 rounds. These guys aren't sweating very good. And young Bergman, he wasn't in the ring long enough to sweat. Looks like Bottas forgot to use a jab to set it up here, Bert.
Yeah, he seems to be intent on catching Tomashek with that right hand, and of course he's putting with some good runs right on the bell.
Chopping right hands by Botha, very chopping.
We were talking earlier about the California state boxing rules, and you mentioned the 10-point scoring system. Does the 3 knockdown rule apply to all their fights, Joe?
Yes, sir. It applies, and the doctor can stop the fight at any time.
Does that happen very frequent?
Very rarely does a doctor second-guess the referee. There's a doctor in San Francisco, Dr. Smith Ketchum, who stops fights, but here, very rarely.
Well, he has a replay from that second round, and Francois Botha measuring his man for the right hand.
Botha allowing himself to be crowded by the obviously fatter Doughboy. And that's not where I think he needs to fight. I think he needs his distance and his range to set up that jab and to set that right hand up to where it doesn't chop. That right hand's got to have leverage on it.
Well, Botha is essentially a distance boxer, and he needs to keep Tomashek on the end of his punches. When he gets close on the inside, gets a little sloppy.
Now he's using the jab again. So conceivably, Jerry Coetzee, the former WBA heavyweight champion, who him and his wife have to say hello to their 3 children who are watching tonight, or this morning here in South Africa. But he actually feels he can peel 22 pounds off Botha, huh?
And make him a world champion.
Yeah. The right diet, the right training, I think is possible. I think his fat content's a little high for an athlete.
Yes, well, if you look at Botha, there's still a lot of fat on the body, and he had considerably more a year ago. Coetzee has done a good job with him so far, but there's a lot more that he could get rid of.
Speaking about Jerry Coetzee, the man that held the WBA heavyweight title, folks, and the man with the bionic right hand. Ooh. Broke it 17 times during his career.
And this evening, here in Sacramento, he is the co-promoter with Don Schagen of this tournament, and of course the main fight, which is Molifiani and Tony Lopez.
The South African Tiger versus the Tiger from, no, I take that back. The South African Lion versus the Tiger from Sacramento. Get your cat straight, Pedro. Botha going right hand crazy again, Bert. He opened up this round using the jab. Now it's back to going right hand crazy.
Yes, that's a little disappointing, Pedro. He started so well, boxing from behind that left jab, and
got caught with his first good punch there, too.
Useful right hand from Tomashek.
2 jabs set that up. Tomashek is very entertaining, always entertains the crowd, always usually ends up getting the crowd behind him because he's such an underdog.
Well, the crowd seemed to like that hot dogging.
Yeah. But if Botha would just study his opponent and work that jab, and since Tomashek seems to have slipped the jab a little bit, I'd punch the jab right around his chest or around his throat area. And I would say that would be my target for the jab, because if he ducked, he would duck into it. The doughboy, folks, Tomashek. Good opponent for Botha tonight. Make Botha work a little bit. Coming to the end of round number 3. Referee Rudy Ortega telling the doughboy, no more clowning, no more clowning. As we look in the Botha's corner, the famed Jackie McCoy working on him.
Well, Kerry could see credits a lot of his success to Jackie McCoy. He has the highest regard and the greatest respect for this man. He said if it wasn't for Jackie McCoy, he certainly wouldn't. Well, the chances are he might not have won that world title from Michael Dates in Cleveland back in '83. Of course, Jackie's very modest, and he says it's the fighter that does the work, not the cornerman, but he said a lot to play with it. There's Francois Botha in his corner, and that's Jackie McCoy giving him some instructions, hopefully telling him to work from behind the jab.
Work behind that double jab. You've got to double and triple up on that jab. That is the key to the fight. That is the key to boxing. If you can get a guy to look at your left hand, look at that jab, you can hit him with the right eventually. But Francois Botha has gone right hand happy here tonight. As usual, folks, the crowd getting behind the doughboy, doughboy, doughboy.
This is round 4, scheduled for 10.
And let's be honest, Bert, this is a fight that probably has distance written all over it.
Yes, I don't think we really expected this one to end inside the 10-round schedule distance. Tomashek is the sort of guy who will stand up. He has done before.
That was a great jab by Botha. 2 jabs, bang, bang.
Well, I dare say that Kerry could see and Jackie McCoy have reminded him that he's got a good left jab and to use it.
We're coming to you live from the Arco Arena in Sacramento, California, in the US of A, folks. Coming to you live on the SABC television network. Bert Blewett and Pedro Fernandez calling the blows from the Arco Arena.
And what a beautiful arena this is, Pedro. Magnificent arena.
Known as the house that Tony built, and I'm talking about Tony Lopez. Tonight it may be the house that Tony retires in.
Indeed.
The unorthodox clowning around there by the doughboy. See, the doughboy, by all that clowning and all that posturing and all that fooling around, what he's doing, he's stalling. That's what he's doing. He's stalling, is reserving energy for the later rounds.
Eating up the clock, as they say.
Yeah. There's Botha chopping with that right hand. Does not put any leverage on that right hand, does not turn the body, does not turn the hand over, does not plant his right foot when he throws it. A lot of flaws in that right hand by Botha. I know it's a very good right hand, but he uses it very sparingly. When he uses it, he just doesn't seem to get the necessary leverage on it. There was a classic example.
Yes, he certainly didn't put much shoulder behind that particular blow.
These are arm punches from Francois Botha.
And this is one of the reasons why we didn't expect this fight to end inside the distance, because Botha doesn't really hit that hard. If you look at his record, quite a few, well, the majority of his fights have gone the distance.
But at cruiserweight, that could all change.
Oh, yes, indeed.
The current cruiserweight champion of the world right now, the IBF champion, is James Waring. The WBC champion is a gentleman. Now, I have a problem with his name now. The WBC champion, tell me his name. We talked about it earlier, and you and I had talked about it in the motel room. He has the most difficult name in boxing.
That's it.
Teobuk something like that.
Let's go.
Coming to the end of round number 4, live at the Arco Arena. This is Pedro Fernandez and Bert Blewett. Chifuk Bubului. I have problems with the name.
Well, I think that's
Yes.
Tomashek in his corner, and of course there's Ted Walker on the right, very well known back home in South Africa. He brought many American boxers to the Republic.
In fact, when a lot of guys didn't want to bring fighters to South Africa, Ted Walker said, "That's bull, I'll bring them." Anyway, the IBF Cruiserweight champion, as I said, was James Waring, the WBC champion, Chifuk Bubului, and the WBA champion, of course, Bobby Ches. Remember him, folks? Bobby Chappie Ches. Should have stayed at super middleweight in my mind. Never stopped off at 168. Went from straight from 160 to 175. And if there's a cheese champion amongst these cruiserweights, I would have to say it's Bobby Ches. Round number 5, heavyweights. Francois Botha in the red, white, and blue trunks out of Pretoria. Undefeated, 10-0, 4 KOs against the Doughboy, Tom Tomashek, 24-7. Not a great fighter, but a fighter that will make you work, a cute fighter. Fighter that doesn't always come to win, people say, folks, but tonight he is pushing Francois Botha and making him work.
Well, on my card, I've given those first 4 rounds to Botha. I think he's edged them. In fact, he won the first fairly comfortably, and he's edged the others.
You know, in the first round, he looked like a world beater. He really did. He came out, he worked a jab. He threw good right hands behind the jab. Little warning by referee Rudy Ortega there. But straight up, in the first round, he really, truly looked like a fine, fine prospect, which he still may be at cruiserweight.
There is an inclination for Botha to fade in distance fights. He certainly did that against Ginger Shabalala in Johannesburg in his last outing. But at the moment, he's paced himself well. I agree, he hasn't looked quite as good in the last few rounds as he did in the first. But he has paced himself well. He looks pretty good, looks fit. But we've seen fewer combinations from Botha. He's beginning to work that jab, but not the combinations we saw earlier.
Well, folks, you've got to work, you've got to double pump and triple pump the jab, and I'll tell you why, because when you throw a single jab, you tend to get counter punch with the right hand, but if you double up on it, you take away your opponent's ability to counter. In fact, that will play a big part in the main event tonight between Malafouani and Tony Lopez. If Vital is able to double and triple up on the jab, I think Tony Lopez will have a hard evening.
Let's go. Come on.
Lopez may well be in for a big surprise here this evening. He's a very confident young man. I suspect he thinks it's going to be an easy fight. And he has been talking retirement, and that's not a very good sign.
No, but he's been talking retirement now for about 1.5 years. It's like he was waiting for an excuse to get out. Personally, I think the only reason why Tony Lopez is still boxing is because he has a domineering father who is, how can I put it, very much a capitalist and keeps Tony working for the money. I mean, Tony doesn't want to fight anymore. He's worth over $1 million. He doesn't need to fight. We're watching heavyweights, folks. Round number 5, Tom Tomashek in the blue and red trunks with a big gut around his waist, and Francois Botha in the red, white, and blue trunks from Pretoria, South Africa. 10 seconds left to go in round number 5.
Well, Francois Botha picked up the pace just a little in round 5. Certainly looked a bit better than he had in the 4th. And as we see him in his corner now with Jackie McCoy putting Vaseline on his brows. He's looking okay.
Frans beweegt nader en weg. Dis die 6ste rondhaal.
He drank the water. He didn't spit it out.
Let's have a replay from round number 5. Good right hand from Botha, and finished with the left hook.
Yeah. A little bit of showboating by Botha after that, though. Instead of moving in with more combinations in the jab,
That seems to be a failing with so many young fighters today, Pedro. They seem to think it's so essential that they should showboat.
Well, I tended to showboat at times. I remember one time I was showboating in Las Vegas in the National Golden Gloves, and the guy knocked me out. So showboating doesn't pay, folks. Take my word for it. Round number 6, heavyweights. Francois Botha, 11-0, 4 KOs out of Pretoria, South Africa, taking on the Doughboy, Tomashek. And of course, later on, folks, the battle of felines. That's right. Tony the Tiger against Tao the Lion. That's 10 rounds of lightweight battle coming up right after this.
Right. Step back. Keep going. Don't step back.
Well, you probably heard that command from referee Rudy Ortega. Keep going, don't step back. That's a surprise. Referee...
he wants more action. Rudy Ortega's demanding more action.
He's backing away from you. Don't. Well, he is indeed. Francois Botha being backed up here in round 6 by Tomashek.
In my mind, Francois Botha may have lost the concentration needed in this fight. It seemed like he was having an easy time about it and sort of got lackadaisical. Landed another right hand there, but there was no shoulder. Another one, no shoulder. Those are like looping right hands.
Be far better advised to throw them straight.
Well, looping right hands only work when you're fighting an opponent that's like 4 or 5 inches taller than you.
There's always been a question mark about Botha's stamina, and it seems to me he's breathing a little harder here in the 6th round.
His mouth's open. He's breathing through the mouth.
I've mentioned earlier that he paced himself well, but
you gotta question the desire of a fighter that's willing to come into the ring and not be 200% prepared. You know, if you're not physically prepared, you can't be mentally prepared. There goes the Doughboy opening up with a meaningless combination.
This has been a good round for Tomashek.
Yeah, but Botha just seems to be unfocused here.
And it could well be the stamina problem. Yep. Once again, have to take that into effect.
Good borderline body shot there, right on the belt line of Botha by the Doughboy. 10 seconds left to go in round number 6, scheduled for 10 heavyweights, live from Sacramento, California. Good round for the fat man, Bert.
Well, by far he's best in this fight, and in fact on my card I gave him that round. He could still turn this whole fight around, because that was basically the halfway stage.
Well, now it boils down to how much does Botha want this fight? Can he suck it up? Is he going to go out here with just a 10-round unanimous decision win it and not look good in doing so? Or will he impress our folks watching back in South Africa? Because the first thing you'll hear when he gets off the plane is, hey, you look terrible. If he looks terrible, they will tell him that when he goes back home. South African boxing fans do not pull any punches, I know. They've sent me some letters. I write for different magazines. I've got a few letters from South Africa, and some have been negative, others have been positive, but they speak their mind.
Well, we have well-schooled boxing fans, if I can put it that way, back home, and they can tell when a man is doing well in the ring.
Tim, come on. That was your best round, Tim. Come on. Take it.
Lots of bounce from Francois Botha as he waited for the bell. Let's see how he shapes here in round 7. This heavyweight fight has been fought at a good pace, a nice, lively pace.
That was a good right hand. Didn't have much shoulder behind it, but it landed flush. And Botha seems to be a little bit confused inside. Doesn't seem to be able to handle the inside pressure very well.
He's essentially a distance boxer.
Last warning from referee Rudy Ortega to the fat man. Another low blow will take away a point. You see all the king corn hats here in attendance. A lot of South Africans here in Sacramento tonight.
Well, King Corn, of course, is part of the sponsoring group for this tournament.
This entire card consisted of 5 10-rounders and 1 6-rounder, which you already saw. Later on in tonight's show, of course, the main event, Tony Lopez versus Itao Malafouani. Lightweight battle, folks.
Well, both these boxers seem to have picked up their pace now in the 7th round.
Botha is not throwing the double jab like he was in the first round. That was, look at that. It was a very, that wasn't even a jab. It wasn't even a probing jab. It was just sort of like a left hand.
This, unfortunately, is one of his failings. He is inclined after a round or two. Yes, it seems as though he's looking to try and take his man up with one punch. It doesn't work that way.
Well, not if you can't punch. If you're not a puncher and you're looking for a knockout, it doesn't make sense. And obviously, with just 4 KOs and 10 wins, 40% knockout ratio for an undefeated fighter does not entitle him to be called a puncher.
Indeed.
Let's go, Tim.
Not much to choose between the two men in round 7. But on our card, we've got Botha ahead, and on screen right now is Itao Malafouani warming up in his dressing room for a fight that's coming up after this. 10 rounds with Tony Lopez.
The Lion from South Africa. There he is, folks. Will he go on to fight Dingban Tabella for the WBO lightweight title, or will Tony Lopez? We'll find out shortly. Coming up, the 8th round, scheduled for 10. There's heavyweights. We're looking into the corner of the doughboy. Now we're looking into Francois Botha's corner. Jerry Coetzee and the famed Jackie McCoy working that corner.
Well, on my card, I've got Botha ahead, but I gave round 6 to Tomashek, and the 7th I scored even.
It's still essentially Botha's fight, but he's not looking that impressive. Short little combination landed inside by the fat man. And the reason why I'm calling him the fat man, folks, is that's what he calls himself. I'm not trying to be condescending to him or anything like that, but he calls himself the fat man, the doughboy. He's got all kinds of monikers. But he was born Tom Tomashek. And if I notice a fault with Botha is when he throws a punch, his chin seems to come up in the air. He throws, see how that left jab, he throws that left jab and his chin seems to come up a little bit. It's not tucked as well as it should.
Let's go.
Neither man is marked after 7 rounds of fighting, which would suggest that neither man is a big puncher. Bit of a bruise there on the right cheek of Tomashek, but nothing serious.
Tomashek is one of those fighters who can go 10 rounds tonight, 10 rounds tomorrow night, 10 rounds the night after that, maybe take a night off and go 10 the night after that. Doughboy becoming assertive here. trying to assert his will against the native of Pretoria, South Africa, Francois Botha, who just landed a vicious combination. Unfortunately, he keeps looping that right hand. 4 or 5 chopping right hands there by Botha. Didn't seem to take too much starch out of the doughboy.
Well, a bit of aggression from Tomashek has stunned Botha into action here in the 8th round.
These are heavyweights, folks. 212 pounds each.
Work your way out of there.
Still a lively pace here in the 8th. Good for heavyweights.
We did a decent crowd here tonight. The crowd's starting to fill in. By the main event, we should have a good crowd. Real good crowd.
That's it.
And of course, the main event, folks. Tao Malafawani taking on the former 2-time IBF junior lightweight champion of the world. The man that had that controversial draw with Brian Mitchell in March. And of course, Brian Mitchell came back here to Sacramento, California, this very ring, and schooled Tony Lopez in the rematch. Took the IBF title. Brian Mitchell, if he's watching tonight, is looking for a fight against Jeff Fennick or Azuma Nelson, whoever wins that March 1st fight for the WBC 130-pound title.
Well, that was a lively round 8. Not much to choose between the fighters. And now on screen, Tony Lopez working up a sweat for his 10-round encounter with Detail Line Malapiani.
What our viewers didn't get to see was referee Rudy Ortega in the doughboy's face after that round.
We'll have some replay from that 8th round.
2, 3.
With Francois Botha really working for a change. Throwing a lot of punches, a lot of leather.
A lot of arm punches.
Yes, not very effective, unfortunately. More replay. Pushing out those right hands rather than banging them home.
He does not pivot, and he does not turn his body when he throws that right hand. That's why that right hand, I mean, I'm not saying that the doughboy doesn't take a good shot, but obviously Botha's not the biggest puncher in the heavyweight division, and to punch effectively, he's got to punch right. That means turning that body, turning those shoulders, and of course setting that right hand up with the left jab. There goes the crowd getting behind the underdog again. Doughboy. The doughboy, a favorite on ESPN television here in the States. Couple good body shots from Botha there. I mean, obviously there's an abundance of body on the doughboy, and Botha would have been wiser to go to that body early.
He could hardly miss.
1 point, low blow. Until you want that. Okay, let's go.
There goes 1 point deduction from Rudy Ortega. So that wipes out the only round the doughboy won on our card.
Indeed. Big smile from Tomashek, but that's going to cost him.
Francois Botha, Pretoria, South Africa, in the red, white, and blue trunks, a veteran of, get this, 200 amateur fights. Said he won 185, lost 15. Now the low blows have been turned around now. Botha lands a low blow on the doughboy.
How do you feel? Are you sure? Huh?
Yes.
All right. No, just let's take a. Yeah. Let's give him a little rest here.
Well, you heard referee Rudy Ortega saying, let's give him a little rest here.
So just keep the punches up. That's all you have to do.
Let's take a look at that again. Replay. There, oh, that was a very low punch.
Although fighters wear a foul-proof protector, a cup protector, folks, which is leather and made out of leather and steel, and actually when it was developed in the 30s, actually when they tested it before Congress here in the United States, they actually hit the man wearing the cup with a baseball bat to show that the low blows would not have no effect. But when the cup gets loose, And the young man's, I'll be honest with you, scrotum gets caught in between the cup and his body. Oh, God, what pain.
Well, so much depends on the angle of the punch. If it moves the cup, if it's coming up, and that left was coming up. I think that's why it hurt.
Work your way out of there. Come on, work. Work your way out of there.
Well, obviously, Botha is not the prospect right now that Jan Berkman is. Although they're almost the same in the level of experience, 10 fights to 14. Botha's got a lot to learn.
Well, the fact that he has not been nominated as a prospect of the year in South Africa would confirm what you've just said, Pedro.
Coming up on the 10th and final round, folks, heavyweights, coming to you live from Sacramento, California, on the SABC television network.
And he has another replay of that low punch coming up.
No.
Oh, no, it's not the low punch.
Now look, let's see how Botha's feet are side by side when he's throwing those punches. He can get no leverage. He negates any reach advantage he has when his feet are standing by that, like that.
Well, that punch was a little bit on the borderline from Tomashek.
Yeah. Chopping right hand. You know, I truly think that if Botha turned his body and put his shoulder into that body and pivoted with those hips, the Doughboy would be history by now.
I agree, Pedro. Well, here we're coming up for the 10th and final round of this heavyweight fight. And on our card, Francois Botha comfortably ahead on points.
And as Bert and I alluded to earlier, folks, our prediction, this fight was going the distance.
Oh, break clean, step back, that's it. Don't hold him.
Well, both boxers trying to make this a big, big round. Most of the punches so far coming from Botha.
Work your way out of there. Let's go,
Well,
kid.
seeing Botha did not get hurt in this fight. I mean, he really hasn't had his cage rattled, hasn't been extended, this and that. I would think that when he gets home Tuesday to South Africa, the former WBA heavyweight champion of the world should put him right back in the gym.
Work your way out of there. Work. Break. Step back, please. Step back, please. That's it.
See how his feet are side by side, Bert? You can get no power, no leverage that way. Some technical flaws being shown by the undefeated heavyweight from Pretoria, South Africa, folks. Francois Botha, soon to be 12-0. Will not get his 5th knockout. I don't think, anyway.
Very unlucky, Pedro. And although Botha has paced himself well over these 10 rounds, he's become a little bit sloppy, particularly with these punches. And as you say, his placement of his feet not that good. And he certainly does not put the shoulder behind his punches.
Work out.
Nor does he turn the hips when he throws them. A lot of arms. See that left sloppy uppercut hook? That was an indication of an arm punch. All arm. Pity pat.
But of course, there's very little coming back from Tomashek, so this looks like another round for Francois Botha.
Yeah, that right hand rattled the Doughboy a little bit.
Let's go. Break.
One could only wonder what kind of fighter the Doughboy would be if he wasn't the Doughboy. I mean, he has a commendable record, 20 wins and 7 losses, 24-7, not bad. 25-7, 7 KOs. About to lose his 8th fight. And that's it. A shutout win on my card and Bert Blewett's card for Francois Botha, the heavyweight out of Pretoria, South Africa. That's the famed Jackie McCoy working the corner with them. and the former WBA heavyweight champion of the world, Jerry Coetzee.
Well, Francois Botha pretty confident that he's going to get the decision.
Well, as we await the inevitable decision, the unanimous win for Francois Botha, Bert Blewett, give your prospect a grade.
Are we talking about Francois Botha?
Yeah, let's give him a grade.
Give him a grade. Well, he's got so many flaws at this stage, and I think there's so much work that has to be done with Francois Botha that I wouldn't even want to grade him. Let's have a look at some of the replay from that last round. As you pointed out, Pedro, he doesn't swivel his body. He doesn't put his shoulder behind his right-hand punch. That would make it very effective if he did. So that's lesson number one he's got to learn.
He won tonight. He went 10 rounds. He fought a crafty journeyman in the Doughboy. But he did not look as impressive as Jerry Coetzee wanted him to look. I'm looking over at Coetzee now. Of course, he's happy with the win. But he's got to be thinking to himself that Francois Botha did show a lot of leaks tonight. And fighters are like pipes, folks. They have leaks. Tonight, Francois Botha showed a lot of leaks.
He also showed potential. And providing he's prepared to buckle down and work, and I think if he listens to Jerry Coetzee, the advice he gets from the former world heavyweight champion, he certainly could become a very useful cruiserweight.
Well, I mean,
a much better fighter all around.
But the fact that he opened up, he almost looked like Tommy Morrison in the first round, double pumping jabs, throwing right hands. I mean, everything was skillfully, he was skillfully maneuvering the Doughboy around the ring in the first round, and then a lapse of concentration seemed to have set in, and then he went back to brawling and throwing arm punches.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a unanimous decision. All three judges, Ellis, Broom, Montano, and Smith, score this bout 189 in favor of the winner and still undefeated Francois Botha.
Francois Botha going to 12-0. Still undefeated. And there's the Doughboy getting the rouse of the crowd.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tim, the Doughboy Tomashek.
Well, at this point, we'll send you back to the studio in Auckland Park.